Adam McKay was once a very big comedy director, did a lot of stuff with Will Ferrell in the 2000s, and it wasn't about until 6 years ago when he started doing movies like The Big Picture, where it was unlike anything that we've seen before from him. He then went on to make Vice, which was a biopic about former Vice President Dick Cheney. Some people said this movie was not as good as The Big Short, but after that movie, people, including myself, were wondering, what is he going to do next? Is he going to stick with something that is a little bit more politically based, or is he going to do a little bit more of the comedic type of stuff? Well, this year we got Don't Look Up, which is a political satire about two scientists who discover a meteor that is basically coming to planet Earth and will cause extinction. Now, McKay has had some humorous moments in his previous two films, but they still also had like heavy moments in the movie, especially The Big Short. But those are also based off of real events that happened. So is he able to blend together some of his political ideas with his comedy into an original story? And will it come out well? Sort of. The thing about political satire is that they have to be ahead of the game, and they also need to kind of be a little bit broad. If a political satire can do those two things, well, then they tend to age a little bit better. I think the last movie that did this pretty well was Idiocracy. Don't Look Up has things to say about society today, but it's not really clever. In fact, it's almost too spot on at times. Now, I don't want to go too off topic about the movie, but since it's about an extinction level meteor coming to hit planet Earth, and it involves scientists warning us about what is going to happen and us not paying attention to it. At least to me, it gave clear idea that this is about climate crisis, and the movie also criticizes the Trump presidency. And there were many talking points during his presidency where it just basically felt like satire was dead at this point, and it's pretty much killed the media industrial complex. Because of how saturated some of us were to some of these events, including myself, there were many moments in the movie where it felt too spot on to what was happening at the time, to the point where the movie was kind of depressing a little bit. Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence play these two scientists that are going to spread the news about the meteor, but the government handles it poorly. The media doesn't take it seriously enough. There's a big tech company that tries to get involved with it, and it also eventually becomes about big tech industries just wanting money and stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff that is relevant to today, and part of me just doesn't think it's a good time for something like this. I don't know, maybe it's just like my anxiety just like kicking in while I was watching this, because definitely in the beginning of the movie you can definitely feel the anxiety happening with these characters. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a scientist that is very anxious through the movie, but also at the beginning of the movie, when Jennifer Lawrence and DiCaprio discover about this meteor, the close-ups are really intense, so you can feel like the tightness and the claustrophobic between them. That part's done pretty well, so maybe that also has a play in it. Even though I thought the movie was a little upsetting at times, I was still kind of hooked into it by the end of the movie. And even though it does feel dour at times, I still thought it had some humorous moments. I may not have laughed a lot, but that was definitely more so because of the writing. The casting, though, is amazing. The performances in this movie are actually like really good. All of these characters are fun to watch, and the actors definitely gave it their all, and they did a great job on delivering these lines. Jonah Hill had some of my favorite moments out of the entire ensemble. I certainly think Hill's improvisational skills works well with McKay's direction. Jennifer Lawrence is very good in this, and she has a nice little running gag that I enjoyed in the movie. Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry played the annoying anchor host too well. Mark Rylance plays this big CEO tech kind of guy. His performance was probably one that I didn't feel too comfortable with, and I think this was all an intentional choice. I don't think it's a bad performance. I think it just didn't work for me. Rylance is intentionally playing an emotionless character. His makeup also makes me feel a little uncomfortable. You can tell that at least his character has gotten his face done. You can see like little scars in the back. He's wearing veneers. Because of this, it's a little bit harder for him to make facial expressions, and it just all his blank emotions and his blank tone fits his character, but it just didn't really work for me. I'm just not sure if this was supposed to be a take on Mark Zuckerberg as like a lifeless CEO, or if this was just Rylance's intention and this is how he perceived his character. Ariana Grande really isn't in the movie that much, but she's playing like herself as a joke to an extent. Her and Kid Cudi's relationship is supposed to be a comment on how we're too focused on celebrity life. At least, again, that's what I got out of it. That's cool that this movie tries to touch on things like this, but I feel like this might have been better for a different movie. In fact, there is a movie called this. It's called Ingrid Goes West. This type of commentary doesn't really fit in the overall structure of this movie. Timothee Chalamet is also in this movie. He has some comedic moments, and it was super pleasant to see him do this type of role, especially while he shared screen with Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio. But this character felt kind of pointless to me. He might have had like one maybe important role at the final act, but I think his character just could have been dropped completely. If you took him out of the movie, probably would have made the movie a little bit shorter, which would have made the movie a little bit better too. And finally, we have to talk about Leonardo DiCaprio. I know I touched on him a little bit, but as usual, he is just fantastic. His character is sweaty and anxious, which is not your typical leading type of man role, especially for DiCaprio. Since there are just so many characters, that obviously means the movie is touching on a lot of ideas as well. Now, even though there are a lot of characters, for the most part, these characters are pretty fleshed out. Even though the movie is kind of touching on a lot of, climate change, political stuff, since it is a world-ending event, the story also explores a lot of the humanity aspect. Now, the movie is building up to something big, and it's almost challenging to come up with a satisfying third act. I thought the very last few moments of the movie were very grounded and mindful. After spending 2 hours of watching a bunch of ridiculous events, it was just kind of nice to see how it played out. But that's because the characters come very well into play here, and they're developed well. If they were not developed well at all, then I probably wouldn't have cared as much. I also think DiCaprio's last line in this movie really puts into perspective of humanity well and ties it in a knot that really just, I think overall, fits the theme of this movie. Sometimes the editing comes well into play with the humor stuff, which I think works more than some of the other problems that I have with the editing. There are many quick cuts of royalty-free videos and footage. It's clearly meant to show you, oh, this is what life is. It's about animals, it's about culture, humanity, plants, whatever you could think of. I think in the first two acts, it feels kind of random and it doesn't kind of fit in with what is happening. It kind of works well in the third act. Part of me wants to say they should have really just done that type of editing in the third act, but then I'm sure it would have felt kind of like low-hanging fruit, just kind of shoehorning in hey, look, this is what the movie's about. Now, the story doesn't have a lot of tension. Before you even watch the movie, if you have any idea what this movie is trying to be about, then you could probably have a clear idea of how the movie's going to end. The movie is politically and economically fueled by everything that's happened in the world. So if the writers decided that the meteor missed or if it got destroyed, well then it kind of negates the entire point of the movie. It was the right way to end the movie. The humor is solid at times, but also it is not at all clever because it's just a little too on the nose. And honestly, the entire cast did a good job, whether or not I thought if their characters fit in the movie or not. But still, there are a little bit too many characters and a little bit too many little ideas and comments that feel a little overloaded at times. The editing comes and goes at times where I'm digging it, and then at other times I just kind of feel like it's a little unnecessary. But the third act has some of my favorite moments of the movie, and that third act also just holds the entire movie well together, in my opinion. This is a depressing movie, though, in my opinion, and that's because it felt like this stuff has already happened. It's just hard to make a compelling satire right now because it already feels like we're living in that reality. Any of these moments that you find outrageous or ridiculous in this movie, you can find on the internet. I think it's just a movie that was made, came out at a wrong, bad time. I know the movie was supposed to be made late 2019. Obviously, COVID put that into play. So yeah, I feel like if COVID wasn't a thing, there also probably wouldn't be so much of a dread watching this movie as well, because obviously COVID put it into a lot of play of what's going on today, and I don't need to get too crazy into it. It's just a little too on the nose. But yeah, I enjoyed the movie more than others, I would say, but I'm probably not going to revisit this movie in a long time. If I do watch it again, it's probably more so I'm curious what my thoughts have changed and how has it aged and stuff like that. I will say though, every once in a while there is a movie where I feel like it's easy to watch because the actors are very good. I don't want to go too off of a tangent, but I think Joker was probably one of those last movies where the movie was, at least to me, it was a little bit easier to watch just because Joaquin was so good, and it distracts the audience on like how poor the story is. I think this is one of those examples. It's just the acting is very good in this movie, and the story is just bleh. So yeah, it's one of those movies. But yeah, I'm feeling like a 3 out of 5 right now. Who knows, that might change later, but that's what I'm going with right now. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Did you see Don't Look Up? If you did, tell me what you thought about it. If you don't plan on seeing it, well then, cool. Tell me why. Let me know what I should review next. Thanks for watching this. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And yeah, so, again, thanks for watching. Make sure you exercise every day. Make sure you drink your milk. And have a great day.